right. Let's talk today about dream interpretation. This is a conversation I have with a lot of people often. And as a shaman, as a witch, as a druid, whatever, I don't like labels, but as a man who practices these things, I figured it would be a worthy challenge to see if I can, properly explain dream interpretation and how one might go about doing that. So, the best thing to do now would be to share with you a dream that I had just last night. And let's see if we can interpret that dream together in real time here. I haven't really put any premeditated thought into this. This is all just going to happen organically and naturally as we get going here. So, my sleep has not been great lately, I'll say that to start. Very fragmented. Some nights I'll get decent sleep, the next night not so much. Some nights I'll get, and this is especially in the last week or two, I'll get some disturbing dreams that might wake me up or freak me out a little bit and take a little while to fall back asleep. This is something I've always had all my life. Very, very strange, difficult to interpret dreams. So this is nothing new for me. They don't really bother me that much anymore. I can usually get back to sleep unless it's something really disturbing that hits a little too close to home. But that's quite rare. So last night, for I would say 3/4 of the night, so if I were to put a rough estimate on it, maybe let's say 5 or 6 hours of my 8 to 9 hours sleep last night. Let's say 5 hours just to be safe. Of the 8 hours I slept, 5 hours of that were focused on this very difficult to explain object. And you might find that you're presented with things, objects, people, scenes, situations that are just inexplicable, right? They're very, very difficult to put into words if you even can. And then oftentimes you can't, and that's fine. That doesn't mean that there's not meaning there for you. Now, the best way that I could put this into words is it started off as a sort of two-sided piece of paper, if you will. And I was writing out, I want to say the lyrics of a song, which I am a composer, amateur composer, mind you, but I enjoy writing music. I enjoy writing lyrics. I used to write a lot of poems. So this stuff comes pretty naturally to me. Now, in the scape of a dream, maybe not so much. Maybe it's a little bit more eccentric or a little bit more difficult to decode. Cryptic is the word I was looking for. But for me, for some reason, it felt as though I was writing a song or maybe a story, which could be one and the same. So, but it had two distinct sides to it. And as the dream sort of progressed, you know how these dreams can go. Sometimes you're super focused on the imagery. Sometimes it sort of fades away. Sometimes you're going in and out of the dream. The dream morphs. So, again, difficult to explain these things in a materialistic sort of sense when dreams are very immaterial, right? So, it went from being a piece of paper, a two-sided piece of paper, to being a circle. And it was almost like a CD, okay? But as you know, for those of you that remember what a CD is, CDs were one-sided. They were not two-sided, except for, like, I think certain rewritable CDs were two-sided, right? But this disc was two-sided. And it was broken up into quadrants. So each side of the circle had sort of like an equal arm cross in it, and each circle was divided into 4 distinct quadrants. How the words fit into those quadrants, I'm not exactly sure. But what I am certain of is that there was a musical component to all this. So not only what were they words, but the words corresponded to certain notes or tones. Okay, I know this is very abstract, crazy, wild, very out there stuff, but bear with me. Each quadrant of the circle would correspond to a note. Let's say a C, and then this quadrant might correspond to an A, and then this one might be an E, or they were not specific notes that I remember anyway. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't, doesn't really matter. Now, let's bring it back here for a moment and let's look at, well, what am I pulling out of this? Am I actually supposed to wake up now and write a song on the piano or on the guitar, or am I supposed to actually, write out lyrics and apply this in a direct sort of sense to the mundane? Not really. Not really. The meaning and the lessons that are coming are not direct. They're very indirect and they're very circular. They'll fall back in on themselves, kind of like the disc, right? The disc is whole in and of itself, but it has parts that begin in one area and end in another, and the end sort of is the beginning of another, and it wraps up in and on itself in a way. Okay, does that make any sense? Probably not. It doesn't matter. Let's keep going. So for 5 hours or so, that's what I dreamt about. I still am not 100% sure what it means. Does it always have a meaning? Maybe not. Does it always have a meaning for you? Maybe not. Maybe you bring this up to someone that you know, a friend or a family member, and then it has meaning for them. I don't know. Maybe the meaning never comes. Maybe it comes in a year from now. You remember, oh, I had that dream a year ago, and it matches perfectly to this physical object that I found. That's a disc that's divided. You know what I mean? So don't be too quick to judge your dream and to force an interpretation. Sometimes that's doing yourself a disservice. Sometimes it's just leaving it alone, and then the lessons come. So, but let's just put the disc part of the dream aside here for a second, because I'm not really 100% sure what it means or what the greater lesson is there for me. So I can't share much with you to do with that specific part of the dream. So let's look at the next part of the dream, which is much more significant and I think easier to sort of take apart. So for some reason, after this weird circular disc lyric tone thing, it sort of went away on its own and was replaced instead by me in what felt like Mexico. I've never been to Mexico. I don't know what it looks like other than what I've seen on TV and documentaries and what I read, and so that's all I know of Mexico is vicariously experiencing it through others in a digital format. So I've never been there. I don't know what it feels like. I don't know what it looks like, but I had the distinct sense that I was in Mexico, and I was at a party, and there were a lot of people there. It was like a house party. And there were some pretty rough looking characters there that were wondering like, what the fuck are you doing here? Like, what's this white guy, from Canada doing at our house party? And I just got the sense that I just did not belong there. I was not supposed to be there. And a lot of them, they were either sort of ambivalent, they were indifferent to my presence, or some of them were like disturbed by me being there, like, what are you doing here? You're clearly out of place. And that's how I felt. I felt like I did not belong there. So this is where it gets a little fuzzy. Sometimes parts of your dream will connect, but the places in between the two parts where they connect is very fuzzy, and you can't remember exactly how you got from one part to the other. That's kind of how it is from this sort of house party to the next part of the dream that's also taking place in what I believe to be Mexico, or a Mexican-like town or city. I started to leave the building. I don't remember why. I don't remember if I was being asked to leave or if I was being pursued, if something negative was happening. I believe so, but I don't remember. It's too fuzzy to put my finger on it. But I soon found myself outside of this, which I believe was an apartment building, a very rundown, low-income sort of apartment building, and like an impoverished area of this Mexican town or city. Anyway, I found myself outside of the back door in a sort of like a dirt parking lot. It's like an open space, not quite in the road, but sort of like off the road in a kind of like a packed dirt sort of um, open space, which I assumed was a parking lot. And then something strange began to happen, and something that's happened to me in real life when I was a teenager is they started to do this thing, usually for nefarious purposes. They'll start to make a line of people to block your view away from the public. This is a tactic that was used, again, this is many, many years ago, 30 something years ago now. Downtown Ottawa, of all places. I was a stupid kid, and I was in a bad place, and I shouldn't have been there, and I was, not thinking clearly. But they made this wall of people to block me off from the public so that they could mug me. And as I saw this sort of unfolding, I thought, oh shit, here we go again. I'm going to get mugged. And this is probably some part, PTSD in the back of my subconscious mind that's coming out, perhaps, or perhaps it's something else, or maybe it's a combination of the two. Probably best not to even judge it too much. But not only did they start to form this wall of people to block me and the view from the public, they started to make a square around me. So it's almost like when you see like a fight breaking out and everybody starts to gather around in a circle or sometimes in a square around the people that are fighting. That was sort of what was happening, but it was just me. And at this point, I became aware that something was going on with me. I felt as though I had been drugged. And I couldn't remember when there would have been an opportunity to drug me, but I started thinking, like, did somebody stick me with something when I wasn't looking, or did somebody put something in a drink? All I knew was I was starting to trip balls. Like I've never taken peyote, but I imagine that it would be similar in its psychedelic nature to that. From what I've read and how it's been described to me, it was sort of like that. I felt like I was descending into madness, and I was starting to lose the rational side of my brain, and I had become basically a puddle on the floor. I was basically reverting back to like my most primitive state, almost like a crazy man on the floor that's like losing his shit. And at that time, as I was kind of like flailing on the ground, trying to, reeling with what the hell's going on with me, somebody threw this big, heavy brown blanket on top of me. So now not only am I like wiggling around on the floor, like going mad, but somebody actually threw a big, heavy blanket on top of me. So I started to feel even more like claustrophobic, like, ah. And then I realized what was happening to me. I was changing forms, and I was not me anymore. I was turning into a wolf. This was freaky at the time. It's strange because I have the most powerful dreams right before I wake up. I think it's because I have a certain issue with sleep, where I don't get deep sleep, I don't get enough deep sleep, and then when I finally hit that deep sleep, it often happens right before I'm supposed to wake up. So like, usually I'll get up between 6 and 7 a.m. So it's not uncommon for me to have my most profound deep sleep between the hours of 5 and 7, like right before I wake up. And today was no exception. So when my alarm went off this morning, I was in the middle of this like metamorphosis, turning into the wolf. And the reason I knew that I was turning into the wolf is I started snarling. And I thought that I was doing it in real life, because a lot of the times I do snore, and when I snore, I'll wake myself up. My snoring is so powerful that I'll wake myself up. So I thought, is this happening? So when I woke up, my partner and I both woke up to the alarm, and I asked her, was I snoring? Because in my dream, I had almost finished my metamorphosis, becoming the wolf, and so much so that I was snarling and I was growling as if I was the wolf. And then as I was waking up from this dream, that's basically the extent of the dream, by the way, so try and figure that one out. It's not always easy. But as I was transitioning back into the waking life, I realized that I came very close of a complete metamorphosis into this wolf. I had shape-shifted. in my dream, which is something that I have difficulty doing in journeys and in meditation, and sometimes in different shamanism courses that I've taken will do shape-shifting, and I don't always have an easy time doing it. But in this dream, once I realized what was happening, it just started happening all by itself. And then I realized that these people didn't want to do me harm. They just recognized that I was out of place and that I was there for a specific reason. And in this case, I believe it was to help me with the process of shape-shifting and to put my fears aside and rest assured that there's no danger here to me when I'm shape-shifting. It's perfectly fine. And I think what it was is a lot of these people were either shamans themselves, or they had worked with shamans and they knew that there was nothing to be afraid of there, and that they were looking to instill some confidence in me, recognizing that I was a shaman, maybe a sort of alternative, unorthodox, shaman, a white Canadian shaman, whatever. I consider myself a universal shaman anyway, so it doesn't, cultures, boundaries, I cross them all. There's no, in my version of shamanism, which I believe is the pure version of shamanism, there's no such thing as cultural appropriation. Doesn't exist because to follow in someone else's footsteps or in some other people's tradition is the highest honor that you can be set upon others, is to follow in their traditions and to keep those traditions alive. So there's no insult there. It's a very much an honoring of those traditions, and that's the way. As long as it's done with respect, and as long as it's done with love and with reverence for the people and the traditions from which these things come from, there's no harm there. There's no danger there. And if anything, it's a very beautiful thing. So anyway, as I'm waking up from this dream, I realize, okay, first of all, I don't know what that disc thing is. I still need to do some more work, and in all likelihood, I need to do some journeys to figure out what that part of it is. Maybe it is more direct, and I do need to make some music today involving those 4 notes, and then maybe more insights will come. Who knows? But the wolf part of it was very powerful. And now, as I've gone through the whole dream again out loud, I realized that that's exactly what it was. It's exactly what I needed to take my shamanism to the next level. The part that was sort of holding me back is my reluctance to want to shapeshift, or maybe it was more that I wasn't sure if I was doing it right, or if I wasn't following all the steps, or you know what I mean? I was, again, getting in my own way. And as soon as I got out of my own way, in this case with the help of a very profound dream, all of a sudden I'm on the other side of this thing now, and I'm pursuing my shamanism studies with renewed vigor and enthusiasm, because I know now that I have allies, not just in this world, but in the spiritual world and the dream world, that even though my insecurities might be telling me, I don't know if these people want good for me or if they're safe or not, put all that stuff aside. Cast that aside for a second and realize you're not alone. There's other people going through this. There's other people that are way more advanced in advanced. I'm using that word loosely, but you get what I mean. More further along in their journey. There are some that are just getting started. There are some that are relatively at the same place in their journey as I am. And I think those are the ones that came to help me last night, to get me to that next level. And I'm thankful now, and I'm grateful to those souls who visited me last night, who helped me understand how powerful shape-shifting can be. And no surprise, right? What animal did I become? My power animal. No accident there, right? So as much as these dreams can be confusing, they can be distressing, they can be, trust me, I know, I've had some fucked up dreams. You're talking to the right guy here. But it doesn't bother me anymore, because I know even if I can't figure them out, that there's still meaning there. And that if I can't determine what the meaning is today, then maybe tomorrow, or maybe never, or maybe I need to have 5 other dreams that connect with that one for it to make sense. You know what I mean? So be patient with yourself. Be patient with your path. Be patient with the fact that you have to go through it. You can't bypass it. You can't go around and go from point A to point B. Sometimes you got to go through the thick of it. And I would say actually most of the time that's what you have to do. And it's like bushwhacking in a very thick jungle. There's going to be things poking you. There's going to be stuff scratching you, and it's not going to be easy, and you're going to get vines caught up in your arms, and you're going to get frustrated. But the only way is through. It's the whole Dante's Inferno thing. The only way out is in. Hopefully that makes sense. So there it is. That's how you can begin to interpret your dreams, no matter how wild or crazy they are. That makes me want to have more of those type of dreams, and to sort of infuse more of that kind of profundity into my life. It's exciting, and it opens up a whole new level of life and enjoyment and possibilities and discovery of how powerful you are, and how we have these hidden treasures inside of us that are just waiting to be discovered. So anyway, let me know what you think of this video. If there's anything I can do to help, if you have any questions, or if you'd like to help myself and others attain their greatest potential, please leave those comments. We would love to read those. And I hope to see you next time. Take care. Be well. Thank you for watching.